Have you ever had one of those quiet mornings, sipping your coffee, staring out the window, and thinking to yourself, is this really it? That's exactly how I felt about 6 months after I retired. I started to feel like I vanished a little, like I slowly faded out of the rhythm of the world. I'd spent so many years dreaming of retirement, but when it came, I realized I hadn't really planned for it the way I thought I had. And that's where the first mistake comes in. The first few weeks were wonderful. Of course, you're no longer bumping into the same colleagues, having lunch at the same places, sharing the same jokes at the copier. And if you're not intentional about it, you can start to shrink without meaning to. You stop making plans, you stop calling. And the worst part, don't let retirement turn you into a ghost. If you're not seeing people, go see them. If no one's calling, you'll call. If you're feeling forgotten, remember this, you still matter more than you know. Maybe you've been retired for a while, and you're nodding your head. Or maybe you're just starting to think about it, and it all feels a little overwhelming. Either way, let me say this, it's never too late to shift gears. Whether you're 60, 70, or beyond, life still has so much to offer, and you still have so much to give. You convince yourself that no one really wants to hear from you anyway. It's not about purpose or people this time, but something a little more practical and a little more personal. At first, it felt like freedom. No more meetings, no more forced small talk, nothing fancy. Just a dozen folks who like tomatoes and good company. I started scheduling weekly walks with an old friend I'd lost touch with, and little by little, the silence turned back into laughter. But gradually, I noticed I wasn't talking to many people at all. Sometimes it means time, sometimes it means showing up, and sometimes it means simply being willing to start again, in a new way, with a new rhythm. I had family, of course, but they had their routines and their own busyness. I found myself going entire days without a real conversation. Not because I was being avoided, but because I wasn't reaching out either. You see, I was so focused on getting away from the deadlines, the early mornings, the constant emails, that I never asked myself what I wanted to walk toward. I knew what I didn't want anymore, but I had no idea what I did want. And that, my friend, is a very quiet, sneaky kind of trap. I slept in, watched the shows I never had time for, even bought a bird feeder and sat on the porch watching. And not just about retirement, but about life in general. We don't stop needing purpose and people just because we stop working. If anything, we need them more, because now we finally have the time to truly invest in both. It was peaceful until it wasn't. One morning, I woke up and realized I had nowhere to be. No real reason to change out of my pajamas. I had confused retiring from something with retiring to something. For a while, I wasn't unhappy exactly, but I was restless, bored. It's easy to assume that rest equals happiness, but too much rest, with no sense of purpose, can start to feel like a slow leak in your soul. It doesn't have to be something huge. I'm not talking about starting a new business or traveling the world. I'm talking about something small but steady. Maybe it's mentoring younger folks in your field. Maybe it's volunteering once a week at the library or picking up that paintbrush you haven't touched since the 70s. The what doesn't matter as much as the why. Give yourself a reason to get up, a reason to engage, a reason to smile. Retire to something. Trust me, it makes all the difference. Every day starts to look the same. There is no reason to change out of your slippers or even comb your hair unless someone else coming by. And the strange thing is, no one tells you how lonely that can get. What helped me, and what I gently suggest to anyone facing retirement, is to find something meaningful to step into. Now, the second mistake I made crept up a little slower. It has to do with people. When you retire, your circle naturally changes. What I didn't realize is that retirement doesn't just change your schedule, it changes your social life. Here's what turned things around for me. I stopped waiting for invitations. I started being the one to call. I joined a local gardening group. We were never meant to do life alone. Even if you're someone who enjoys solitude, too much of it can become isolating. These two mistakes, not retiring to something and letting my social circle fade, taught me a lot. And as I learned, investing doesn't always mean money. Let's take a deep breath here. If any of this feels familiar, you're not alone. Now that we've opened up those first two lessons, there's one more I want to share, one that surprised me the most. Let's talk about that next. Now, the third mistake I made might sound a bit mundane at first, but looking back, it had some of the biggest consequences. It wasn't about purpose or people, it was about money. It's the rhythm of it, the reassurance. You work, you earn, you spend, and the cycle continues. But retirement breaks that rhythm. Suddenly, it's not about what you make anymore. It's about what you have and how long you can make it last. That's a shift I wasn't emotionally ready for. Not in the sense that I didn't save enough. I'd actually been fairly disciplined about my savings, more confidence in how we use what we've earned. Each of them came from a different place, but they all had one thing in common. I hadn't really prepared for the emotional part of retirement. It's a whole new season of life. And like any new season, it asks us to grow, adapt, and learn new rhythms. But here's the good news. It's never too late to quit. Never too late to rediscover a sense of purpose. Never too late to reconnect with people. Never too late to find balance and confidence in the way we spend and save. Retirement is personal, but it doesn't have to be lonely. I'd prepared the paperwork, the timeline, the finances, but I hadn't prepared my heart. But actually enjoy this new chapter in a way I never expected. If you've saved and you're living within your means, don't punish yourself for living a little. You've spent your whole life working, sacrificing, budgeting, providing. Not just drift through them, not just kill time, but actually enjoy the time we've been given. Maybe it means calling your sister just to say you were thinking of her. That makes you human. All of us go through it. The important thing is what we do next. Because as long as you're breathing, you're still in the game. You still have the power to make changes, try something new, reconnect, reach out, or simply say yes to a life that fits you better. Maybe it means signing up for a painting class, even if you're convinced you can't draw a stick figure. Or maybe it simply means going to bed each night knowing you made today matter in some small way. Now it's time to provide for yourself with that same care. You don't need to hoard every penny. You need to use it wisely. And yes, that includes spending it on things that make you happy. After all, I had worked hard to build them up. But once I actually started using them, I felt guilty, anxious. Every time I spent a little more than I'd planned, I'd lie awake, wondering if I was being careless. We didn't talk about investments or markets. We talked about goals. What I wanted my next 10, 15, maybe even 20 years to feel like. We talked about travel, about family, about having enough to cover surprises, but also enough to say yes when my grandson wanted to go see the aquarium, or when my neighbor invited me to join a trip to the mountains. Even when I bought things I needed, new eyeglasses, dental work, a winter coat, I'd feel like I was breaking some invisible rule. I found myself cutting corners I didn't need to cut, skipping out on things that actually would have improved my quality of life. And ironically, that anxiety made me spend more on impulse, just to feel some relief, like a weird kind of stress release. But I made a classic error. I underestimated how different spending feels when the paychecks stop coming in. There's something about a regular paycheck that creates a sense of safety, even when you're not spending much. The mistake I made was thinking that I'd feel fine tapping into my retirement funds. What I wish I had done, and what I eventually learned to do, was give myself permission to enjoy what I'd saved. Retirement is not the end of responsibility. It's the beginning of a new kind of stewardship. You're not just spending, you're managing. You're being intentional. You're making choices based on what brings you peace, joy, and well-being, not just what costs the least. Here's what helped me. I sat down with someone, not a high-end financial advisor, just a thoughtful, trustworthy planner who could help me see the big picture. Sometimes what we need isn't more money, it's more clarity. So those were the 3 big ones for me. The 3 mistakes I made when I retired: not having a purpose to step into, letting my social circle shrink, and allowing fear to cloud the way I used my money. Retirement isn't just a break from work. I've found that this time of life, the so-called golden years, can be truly golden, but only if we live them on purpose. Maybe that means finally picking up the guitar you left in the attic. And if you're sitting there thinking, well, I've already made a few of those mistakes myself, I want you to hear this. That doesn't make you a failure. Give yourself that gift. And while you're at it, share this video with someone else who might need to hear it too. Now, before we wrap up, there is one more thing I'd like to share. Something that has helped me not just fix the mistakes I made, but actually enjoy this new chapter in a way I never expected. What helped me move forward, after realizing the mistakes I'd made, wasn't just correcting them. It was learning how to live better in retirement, not just longer. Because here's the truth. You can fix the practical stuff and still feel like something's missing. What filled that gap for me was something a little unexpected. Learning how to slow down with intention. Let me explain. For most of our lives, we're running on a schedule. Work at 9, lunch at 12, pick up the kids, pay the bills, mow the lawn, squeeze in dinner, repeat. Retirement suddenly removes that structure, and for a while, it feels freeing. But after a few months, that wide-open calendar can turn into a kind of fog. You wake up thinking, what day is it again? You begin to treat your hours and days as treasures, not obstacles. But I've learned not to be afraid of those moments. I've learned to lean into them gently and to ask myself, what do I need right now? The best part about retirement is that, for once, there's no rush. You can move at your own pace. You can redefine what success looks like. Maybe it's no longer climbing a ladder or chasing a title. Tell me, what's one thing you've learned in retirement that surprised you, or one change you've made that brought you peace? I make videos just like this for people like you. People who are still growing, still learning, still living fully, no matter their age. Your story could help someone else more than you know. Maybe now, success looks like laughter, like quiet mornings, like being present with the people you love, or with your own thoughts. And a reminder that the best parts of your story might still be ahead. Sometimes the answer is movement, a walk around the block. Sometimes it's connection, a chat with my daughter or a neighbor. Whether you've been retired for 2 years or 2 decades, you can always make a change. You can always shift gears. That's the beauty of this chapter. It's yours to write. And sometimes it is just grace. Reminding myself that I don't have to have all the answers to have a good day. You begin to build a life that feels whole again, even if it looks very different than it used to. And not in the fun vacation way. In the why am I even getting out of bed today? Wait. So instead of filling my days with busy work just to feel productive, or worse, sinking into hours of television and scrolling, I started building in tiny moments of meaning. But I don't know where to start. I'll say this, just pick one thing, one small thing you can do today that adds meaning to your life. Maybe it's reaching out to someone you haven't spoken to in a while. You're not fading, you're evolving. You are in a season of life that holds just as much beauty, wisdom, and richness as any that came before it, maybe more. You don't have to get everything right. You don't have to make up for past mistakes. You just have to keep going, with kindness and courage, one step at a time. Maybe it's going to the community center and sitting in on a class, even if you don't know anyone. Maybe it's walking somewhere new, or simply allowing yourself to spend an afternoon doing something you actually enjoy. No guilt, no second guessing, nothing dramatic, just quiet rituals that gave my day shape and soul. Just the birds, the breeze, and my thoughts. It's not a productivity hack. It's not about self-improvement. It's just about being present. And I can't tell you how much calmer I feel because of it. Every morning now, I sit outside for 15 minutes with my coffee. No phone, no news, no noise. A few lines each evening, whatever's on my mind. Sometimes it's a memory from childhood. Sometimes it's a quote I heard. Sometimes it's just what the sky looked like that day. But these little moments, they add up. They remind me that I'm still here. That my thoughts, my memories, my reflections, they still matter. I also started writing again. Not for anyone else, just for me. Another thing I've learned is to ask myself this one simple question each morning. What is one thing I can look forward to today? Sometimes it's just watching the sunset, but that question shifts my mindset. It turns the day into something to engage with, not just get through. It doesn't have to be big. Sometimes it's calling a friend. Sometimes it's picking up fresh bread from the market. See, retirement isn't about filling time. It's about valuing it. And once you start thinking that way, everything changes. Of course, I still have days when I feel a little lost or disconnected. That's part of being human, no matter your age. So, if you're watching this and thinking, that all sounds nice, you don't need to overhaul your life in a week. You just need to start. And just to be clear, you haven't missed your chance. So let me leave you with this. You are not past your prime. And if this message resonated with you, I'd love for you to share your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't already, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for spending this time with me today. I hope you walk away with a little more clarity, a little more hope. Here's to living your best life at any age.